don't give a damn about the whole state of Alabama. Whole state of Alabama. Whole state of Alabama. You don't give a damn about the whole state of Alabama. We're from Tennessee. You don't give a damn about the whole state of Alabama. Whole state of Alabama. Whole state of Alabama. You don't give a damn about the whole state of Alabama. We're from Tennessee.
Pardon me and my tone. You can't step to my throne. They ain't working like me. I did this on my own. You asking where we been, huh? I don't know where to begin, huh? All this dirt on my skin. I just came here to win. I'm more than a man, I'm a monster. Somebody call a pastor, doctor. I got a sixth sense for imposters. So now I'm coming for the whole roster. It's not a game, why you playing with me? You could double back, lose track, try and hang with me. It must be in my veins, something you can't tame, cause I break the chain. Can't control me. I got the power.
Doesn't matter the sport. It doesn't matter the day. It's always a big deal when Tennessee plays Alabama. This is the Talkin Vols Network. My name is the Indy Kid. This is the Tennessee-Alabama preview coming at you tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN2. Number 14, Tennessee. Number 19, Alabama. Hope you guys will tune in with me after the game. Talkin Vols live tonight. Let's get into it. Before we get into it, I say let's get into it and then before we get into that, guys, hit like, hit subscribe, drives the algorithm, drives the channel, drives out Vol-related material that is produced from this channel. We appreciate any and all likes, any and all subscriptions from you guys. Tennessee and Alabama, number 14, Tennessee, 9-2 on the season. Number 19, Alabama, 9-3 on the season. So, what's going to be the key for Tennessee tonight when they go to Alabama? Alabama owns a 45. Let me pull this up so I can, 45-19 advantage when playing in Tuscaloosa. That's unfortunately what we call a home court advantage when it comes to basketball. So what can Tennessee do to make that 45-20? Well, if I look back at the one game I'm very curious about that stands out to me, Alabama's got some nice wins on the season. Alabama has beaten Gonzaga. They beat them, if I pull back up here, beat them 91-82. They beat Houston, who's ranked, depending on the poll, 14 or 13, 83-82. And then they lost to Memphis. They beat Jacksonville State 65-59. And then they lost to Davidson 79-78. So Alabama, since beating Gonzaga and Houston, a little bit of a skid right now, but still some nice wins along the way. We know what happened last year as Alabama beat Tennessee in Knoxville, and then they beat them in the SEC tournament in Nashville. So the one game I want to look back on is, what did Memphis do that caused Alabama problems? Number one, Memphis hit their free throws. They got to the line 25 times. Alabama only got to the line 12 times in that game. The rebounds were pretty similar. Memphis 33, Alabama 31. Alabama actually had more offensive rebounds than Memphis. Assists 20 and 16. Blocks the same, steals the same, turnovers pretty similar. The fouls, I think this was the big difference in this game was the fouls. Alabama had 20, Memphis had 12. Maybe this was home cooking. It was at FedEx Forum. You cannot discount home cooking in college basketball. But Memphis got to the line more than twice what Alabama did. There was a 12-point difference at the free throw point, at the free throw line, 92-78. You do the math on that one. What does Tennessee need to do with Alabama? They need to get to the free throw line. Did an excellent job against Arizona. They out-rebounded Arizona. They got to the free throw line against Arizona. And Tennessee is predominantly ranked as one of the worst teams in the nation of getting to the free throw line. What do they have to do? They got to replicate the Arizona game. They played a team who's the second tallest team in the nation in terms of their rotation in Arizona, only second to Florida State. This Alabama team matches up a lot more similar. Now, they do have their center, Charles Bediako. Feel free to correct me on that one, guys. But other than that, at the point guard, they match up pretty well. Here, pretty interesting that Kennedy Chandler and J.D. Davison were ranked as the numbers 1 and 3 point guards in the class of 2021 by ESPN. Both were rated as McDonald's All-Americans. Now, the one thing you see about it is Kennedy Chandler starting. Davison is not listed in the top 5 of Alabama's starting lineup. So, what are we looking at? Alabama, a little bit experience-wise. Tennessee's actually a little bit more experienced than Alabama. You got Chandler, the freshman, but then Vescovy, Josiah Jordan, James John, Fulkerson, Olivier Kamwa, all juniors or above. Of course, Fulkerson is a super senior. With Alabama, Javon Quinterly is a junior, Jaden Shackelford, junior, Keon Ellis, senior, Juwan Gary, redshirt sophomore, and then, of course, Bediako is a freshman. They're pretty similar in those regards. Rebounding advantages, pretty similar. A lot of similarities in these two teams. But the one thing that's standing out to me, of course, is that home court advantage. What does Tennessee do to make this 45-20 in Tuscaloosa? What do they do there? What did they do with Arizona? They shortened up the rotation, as we saw. Do they do this again tomorrow night? I think, Rick Barnes addressed, Dauber and I had questions about where was Huntley Hatfield at last week. Rick Barnes talked about it, and he went into detail about it. Talked about how Huntley Hatfield, the 2 days prior to the Arizona game, he did not have good practices, which led to him only having 2 minutes against Arizona. Has he picked it up? Will he be more of a factor this week? You saw more of Euros than you did Brandon Huntley Hatfield. Chandler, Ziegler, Vescovy. Is this Tennessee team? I think they are what they are. I think we're seeing what they're going to be at this point. They're going to fire the ball. Vescovy is going to take 10 or more three-pointers if needed. Josiah Jordan James, you saw more of what he's going to do in his games. He's more multi-dimensional. He's not going to be afraid to shoot the ball as well. I think Rick Barnes encourages these guys to do that. So where are we at on the season, according to stats? Tennessee, again, second in the nation in adjusted defensive efficiency, allowing only 85.8 points per 100 possessions. College teams typically average close to 70 possessions per game. All right. Alabama, just kind of looking at where they're at. Strong team. It is what it is. You look back at what Alabama did last year, where Alabama had an advantage last year. I felt they were – I don't know. I felt that Alabama was – they shot the three very well last year. They caused Tennessee trouble in that regard. And, I think you've got to look at that again this year as well. Again, this isn't an experienced team, but there's talent on this team. Nate Oates, fantastic coach, came previously from Buffalo. You know, it was one of these guys that you really don't want to see at Alabama because you know what they're going to bring to the table. And, you know, just kind of looking at Alabama, their points, you know, who do they have to look at, et cetera. I mean, their splits. Alabama is 6-0 at home. On the road, they're 3-3. On the road or neutral site, they are 3-3. Quinterly, 15.7 in his home games. Keon Ellis, 16 points per game. Juwan Gary, 11.3 last 7 at home. So that's who's hot at home. Alabama has won 16 straight games inside of Coleman Coliseum, dating back to a 73-71 loss to Western Kentucky, December 19th, 2020. Can't think of a better time to end that streak than now. So again, Alabama comes into the game ranked 19th by the AP and the coaches poll. They're number 16 in the Sagarin, number 18 by Ken Palm, number 23 ESPN.com, BPI, number 24 NCAA.net. They rank number 9 in the nation in offensive efficiency, number 10 in average possession length, and number 33 in adjusted tempo. So this is going to be a test and a task for Tennessee's defense. Ranks second in defensive efficiency per game. Alabama's averaging right at 10 threes made per game, and they attempt just shy of 30 threes per game. Cannot leave the guys open on the perimeter. Obviously, you can't leave the lanes open as well, but that's what Alabama – this could be a fascinating matchup, and it could get high scoring because of just the style of play. Much like they played last year, you got to think Alabama's going to play like that this year as well. Tennessee's defense, I think it's safe to say, is better this year. I felt there were flaws in their three-point defense last year. How do they defend tomorrow night? How does Rick Barnes adjust to that? What kind of rotation does he go with? The guys who don't play strong defense, I have a feeling they're not going to play much tomorrow night, much like in the Arizona game. Defense is big to Rick Barnes. If you're not doing it in practice, you're not doing it on the defensive end, you're not going to play much for Rick Barnes. That's just the way it is. Maybe he's too old school, whatever, but that's his style. You know it when you come in. You know it when you practice. You don't buy in, you're not going to play. And you have nobody to blame but yourself. If you don't buy in, if you don't put in the effort, you don't play. But we'll see how this goes. I know I didn't feel real confident going into the Arizona game based on matchups, based on stats, based on everything lined up. And this Tennessee team, they never trailed in that game. Obviously, that game was in Thompson-Boling Arena. It's on the road tomorrow night where Alabama is very strong at home. You're going to have a similar effort to tomorrow night. And it's like I say a lot of times, if Tennessee gets up like they did on Arizona last week, they've got to put their foot on their throat and they cannot let off on it. If you're up, adjust what you're doing. Have a plan A, have a plan B, have a plan C. It can't just all revolve around Vescovy or someone else chucking up three after three after three if they're not falling. At some point, if three is not falling, you have to adjust and not let other teams back into the game. How does Tennessee counter tomorrow night, or do they just keep doing the same thing if the three is not falling? Again, tonight I will be live with you post-game late night with the Indy Kid. Hopefully we're coming on celebrating breaking Alabama's 16-game home winning streak. Hopefully Rick Barnes and his team gets a big, big win to start conference play. This is going to be one of the teams they're going to have to go through. May see them again in Nashville. later on to go through them if they're going an SEC tournament title. But my name's Indy Kid. This is the Talkin Vols Network. And as always, go Vols, beat Alabama. And I'll see you later on. Have a good day, guys.